Ew. Oh, crazy. Yeah. Oh. Oh, double fuck. Oh, snap. Oh, nope. Hi. Good to see you. I'm still kind of getting everything situated. What? Lower this a little. Just a little bit. Sorry. Still getting everything situated. Yeah. Oh, push. Nope, hold on. No. Come on. Give me my thing. Manage. Add mod. There we go. Ba-bam. Ba-bam. Thank you. And hoot hoot. There we go. Yep. And yep. There we go. Are we? Yeah. High five. There we go. Oh, what happened this time? Well, because so many people have to like leave in and out and like can't be here through the whole thing. And I know it's long. So I added some mods. Once again, not in cosplay. Apologize. Really want to get back into cosplay next week. Last week I was sick. I'm still having back problems. So working on it. Hey man, that's alright. Paint if you need to. So yeah, that'll be happening perhaps next week. Is that what the weird symbol is next to the name? Yeah, that's a mod symbol. Those are the mods. But yeah, I was sick last week, so I apologize. Thank you for bearing with me. I feel a little bit better now. My throat's still a little sore, but it's not as bad. And I'm not coughing every 5 seconds, which is the important part, because it's hard to read when you're coughing every 5 seconds. And I figured it would get really annoying and nobody would want to watch. But that's the plan. Do I like Harry Potter? Yes. Yes, in a way. Like the content, not a fan of the author. Yes. Hey, glad to see everybody rolling in. Good work. Thanks. It's my Dobby and Toga shirt. So pretend you're on FaceTime. I don't know how to do that. I don't FaceTime people. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So I was like getting real sick of it. But I'm feeling better. And I got new coffee. Lady Aoife worked so hard to get here. Thank you for the coffee. I went ahead and opened it because it was coffee and I knew it was coffee and I wanted to drink it, so sue me. But it's the bag. Yeah, I made it in an espresso. I made it as regular coffee and I made it a little weaker than intended this morning, so I was like, I'm gonna try and make it as an espresso. It's really good as an espresso. And also in the package they sent me these pins, which are super cute. So Lady Aoife, if you're here, yeah, you are here, yay! Thank you very much once again for the coffee. I know it was a real pain in the ass getting it here, but I really appreciate it, and it's delicious. It's a medium roast this time, and it tastes not directly like hazelnut. I can't pinpoint the exact flavor, and it doesn't say, but it's really good. There was a card that came with it. I probably should have read the card. I was really excited about the buttons and the coffee. But this is a Cafe Domingo. And it's really good. It's really good, actually. As an espresso, really give it a try. And I've made 2 or 3 cups today, honestly. Like, immediately when I got it, I made like a whole pot, drank the pot, made another one, really liked it. And I've been kind of experimenting with it all day to kind of get it to the strength and like flavor, like kind of nail down the flavor profile so I can add stuff to it. And I put a little bit of brown sugar syrup in here this time with some oat milk, and it's really hitting. This is slapping pretty good. And highly recommend it. If you want to send me coffee, no one has to send me coffee, but I appreciate everyone who does, because this is like the 3rd time I've received coffee from people. Did the gremlin box come in today? I went to the P.O. box because Dad told me to check, and there was nothing in there. So I'm sure it'll probably get there tomorrow. They just hadn't sorted through the P.O. box arrivals probably. But I will. Some of my spare horror novels. You know I like horror novels from you. I'm still working through those. I have a to be read pile that's several feet tall. That can be arranged. What, the coffee? Now, I accept all coffee donations from Swiftblood. Swiftblood knows their shit. But this slaps. So I got a big old cup. Probably should have made tea for my throat, but I was more enthralled with the coffee. So I'm still in the coffee. It's still in the coffee thing. But yeah, highly recommend. I also love the pins. If you missed them. They're really cute. They're backwards, but the last one says no wheat coffee. I like it. I'm gonna put them on I'm gonna put one on my hat and probably the other one's in my car because I'm in my car all the time. But I'm feeling better. I'm not coughing every 5 seconds. I still have a bit of a sore throat, but it's not impacting anything too much. So hopefully I can make it through the live. If I do, and one of the main reasons that I didn't want to do it last week was there's a lot of ghoul talk. Not to give anything away, but the last chapter of the day has a really big speech from our ghoul friend. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that without hacking up a whole lung through the entire thing, because that voice is a little bit of a strain, even on good days. So I didn't want to try it when I felt like crap and then end up really fucking myself over. So but I got some Chloraseptic here. I got some cough drops on the desk. So if it gets real bad, I might take a Chloraseptic break. Thanks. It's been like this for a while, but I did just freshly shave this side of my head. It was getting kind of long, and it was bothering me, and it's real hot. Oh yeah, me and Noti Bean went out for Thai food before this, and had a good time. We're still friends, if anybody is wondering. We haven't shot content for a while because it was getting... There were some complications with us shooting content, but that's been removed, that obstacle. So now we're going to be able to shoot content some more. So we're hoping to do that next week. So I might be going live from Noti's place next week. So that'll be fun. Hopefully we can get some more Denki and Shinzo content in. Noti was telling me today that someone had messaged them and was like, "Are you and Shinzo still friends?" And they were like, "Yes." Yeah, we're still friends. We don't hate each other. It's fine. We just weren't able to shoot content for a long time, and but our schedules have cleared up, and we're gonna be good. Won't get us banned again. Yeah. So we're lining up some fun content. I'm hoping I can start really putting some things into motion now that my schedule has cleared up and some things have been ironed out. I should had no. I don't think so. It's off. It's off. It's the one over by the post office. I literally left the post office 1 minute before they closed and went and we got Thai food. It's I'll send it to you later. I can't remember right now, but there's the Thai place near the post office. There's also another, like, a new soul food place that opened up over there. That street, you park in the back, you go in the weird alley. You go in the weird alley right behind that main road where the one-way is. You go past the street on the one-way. This is really insider baseball for everyone, for everyone listening. They're like, what? We live in the same town. I've known them for years. But yeah, sorry, this is gonna get real insider baseball. You go past that main street. I think it's Chestnut. I'm not sure. No, it's not. It's not. State? No, it's off state. You go down state because that's a one-way, and then you go up Chestnut. That's the other one-way. You pass that and go in the weird alley behind there, and it's the second building in that weird alley. You'll see it has a beautiful looking patio. The rest of the alley looks like shit though, and that's how you know it's legit. Alley restaurants are the best restaurants. Yeah, like I said, this is real insider baseball. I'm very sorry for everybody who doesn't live near me. Also, nobody dox my location, please. I don't need people finding out where I live to come murder me. Don't do that. But yeah, sorry about the insider baseball driving instructions right there. Well, because normally I know which street I'm on, but I don't go to that side of town very much unless I'm just going to the post office. So I only know where the post office is. I never go down there because it's all really busy and the square has a bunch of bars on it. And the number one thing that I just am never going to walk into is a bar. So that sounded like the setup to a really bad joke. Toshi walks out of a bar. No. But there's like 5 bars and like it's really crowded normally over there. It's like the main square of our town. And I'm gonna go to the least populated area. Dad is here. Sweet. Good news. Everybody welcome Dad. Dad, welcome in. We were just talking about coffee and obscure directions to get to the Thai place off of the square. No one lives here except for me and 2 people in this chat. I didn't see you in here. I don't see... Ooh, I need to know if there is another person in here. Dark Matter Margot, if you are in here, I need to know immediately. Because for some reason, I don't think they are showing up, but I know they have been here. So, very confused as to whether or not they are in here and if they can talk. Because I don't have them blocked. But for some reason, they are telling me privately that they can never talk in here. And I don't have them blocked. At least I don't think they do. And if I did, it was a mistake. No, they're not on the block list. So, I don't know. There's someone who can't talk in here. There's someone who can't talk that is regularly joining my lives and can never comment. And they were very upset by that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, good. That might mean they haven't shown up yet. I forget if they work today, but they've been showing up pretty regularly, at least after a certain time. And they were like, I can never comment, and I don't know what's wrong. And I was like, well, that's a problem. I don't know why it would do that. Yeah, and that's, I think, happening to them because they are not on the banned list. I've checked, and they're not on there. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, dude. But everybody who's on the ban list deserves to be there because a lot of them just have Trump in their account name. So I was like, well, those deserve to be there. That's definitely not. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It might have been muted. Ooh, let me check the. Can I check the mute list? Muted accounts. There are no muted accounts right now. So who knows? I don't know. We'll figure it out. TikTok does weird shit like that all the time. We'll figure it out. I'm gonna contact them after the live and see if there's something I'm missing or something I need to do. And contacting TikTok for support has very little results. Yeah, anybody being rude in here and I miss it, or anybody saying some weird shit, go ahead and block them. Anything with Trump in it, unless it's like, you know, anti-Trump, just block them. Anybody starts making like slurs or anything, boot them. You all have. That's why I made you mods. You keep doing you guys, but Dark Matter Margot should not be muted or blocked. Yeah, it does weird crap like that all the time. It'll just occasionally like unfriend some of my mutuals, and then I'll like get like a message on like Instagram or something that's like, yo, hey, you mad? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, or like someone will see me in person and they'll be like, yo, why'd you boot me on TikTok? And I was like, what? I didn't do that. And it'll just unfriend people. It doesn't do it super often, but when it does, it's just like, I won't notice because I follow a lot of accounts. And so I won't notice until I like go to send someone a cat video. And I'll go to send it and their name won't come up, and I'll search and they won't come up, and then I'll go directly to their page and it'll be like, follow? And I'm like, alright, cool, I see how you do, whatever. Anyway, I think it's time for the main event. What do you guys think? We've knocked out the people who are here for whatever the fuck reason. And it's down to the main people. 2. We're ready. We're set. I'm glad that, because anybody who is new and I do that and people start responding to are probably like, the fuck is happening? It's very insider baseball. We can get a recap. I was going to recap. There's a hermit in a weird castle in a dangerous desert that they gotta go find so they can ask a question. Basically, they're gonna ask where the phobic animus is, or the physical embodiment of fear that's made up from millions of dreamers over the centuries, where this manifestation of fear resides so they can go kill it. Johannes and the Fear Institute. So they get information about where the hermit lives and that the hermit hasn't actually answered a question in 2 years. So they're going to go and find this hermit so they can ask him where the phobic animus is. And it's supposedly going to be really dangerous. And you already know there's a lot of ghoul talk in this one. So, gear up. Everybody gear up. I've explained the two thing to people before. But they have also, and this is kind of important for not necessarily this time, but next time, they've enlisted a character named Captain Lockery, who has a wooden leg with a weird gopher-esque creature that lives inside of his leg. Thank you for the rose. And gopher's real cute. Everyone wants one. Everybody thinks they're adorable. Anyway. Weird, like a guinea pig or a gopher. That's what I'm envisioning. Is something like slightly smaller than a gopher, but slightly larger than a guinea pig. And it's like, anyway, it's whatever. It's not a dollar bill. It's a $2 bill. I don't know where all my toe tags went. I normally use toe tags as bookmarks, and I don't know where all my toe tags are. So, $2. Love the little guinea pig. All right. We're gonna rip into it. We're on chapter, and for anybody who needs the chapter and page number that we are starting on, this is chapter 7, and it's page 128. That's my thought process. Anything that's handy, anything that's near me, I will shove in a book. Thank you. I just shaved it last week. All right. Everybody ready? Everybody get your drinks. Everybody got your cat mugs. Everybody got a comfy blanket and a cat and or pet. Got your dogs. Got your kids. Everybody got their shit. 2. Sweet. That's what I needed to hear. Chapter 7. In which the expedition explores a nameless city of evil repute. "Womps," said the sergeant as he checked the ties on his scabbard. "Womps," replied Bosie, hand held up. "Womps," said Cabal, "are a species, not a greeting." "Oh," said Bosie, unabashed. "They sound rather harmless, though, don't they?" He tested the name several times with different intonations, each implying womps were cuddly, warm, docile, and fun to have around the house. Sergeant Holk, a man with his experience measured in scars and a hard, weather-beaten face, looked at Bosie as a father might look at a child who wants a Wolverine for Christmas, ideally one with rabies. "They're bigger than a man. They have 9 legs and heads like great bats with no eyes at all. They're disease-ridden killers. Just a scratch from one can kill you, even if it takes a year of miserable, agonizing sickness to do it." "Do be quiet," said Cord. The sergeant's predilection for gruesome hyperbole was proving counterproductive. It was Cord who had found him at one of the ill-regarded dives he was becoming quite adept at locating. The sergeant had agreed to tell them what was known of the empty and partially ruined city to the east in exact non-folklorish terms, for he had been there. So far, his advice had been very much of the "don't go there" variety, of which the presence of womps was the newest variant. Warming to his theme, the sergeant said, "6 years ago, I went in there with a platoon to raid the old library. Special commission, you see. We got the scrolls we went in for, but it was dusk by the time we were ready to move out. The womps ambushed us. They've got a few brains, and they don't fight like animals. They're cunning, see? They can creep up walls and drop on you from above. That's what happened to us. 30 of us went in. Only 4 of us got out." "Without a scratch, I presume?" said Cabal drily. The sergeant just laughed and pulled up the left side of his jerkin. Beneath the flesh was not simply scarred, but missing down to the ribs, which showed as slats beneath a thin covering of skin. His audience watched, fascinated, as the slats rose and fell with his breathing. No, sir, not without a scratch. Within half a day, that scratch was a mass of worms. The chirurgeon had no choice but to cut out all the tainted flesh before it spread. I cursed him. Gods, in my delirium, I cursed the eyeballs from his head, but he saved my life. Shadrach was caught in the flux between repulsion and fascination. Worms? You mean maggots, surely. I mean worms. Filthy, fat things that swallowed strings of my flesh at one end and shat out pus out the other. But where did they come from? From the same place a worm that causes a toothache comes, Shadrach, said Cabal. Shadrach looked sourly at Cabal. Don't talk nonsense, man. Worms don't cause toothache. That's an old wives' tale. Cabal made a noise, often heard from the parents of ungifted children, just before explaining for the 10th time why it's bad for Timmy to put Timmy's arm in the big fire. Herr Shadrach, this is a world in which old wives are authorities. How many times must I reiterate this, gentlemen? This is the dreamlands, where theories of microorganic infection carry far less weight than the realities of myth. In the waking world, one may profitably avoid plaque and gingivitis. Here, dental hygiene consists of avoiding the attention of toothworms. The sergeant listened to this, nodding with approval. Flossing helps, he said. He added, they hate that. It all sounds a bit dangerous, said Bosie quietly. It all sounds remarkably dangerous, corrected Cabal. We don't even know if this marvelous hermit is still alive, or can help us if he is. Perhaps we should look elsewhere for data. Shadrach took a firm grip on the edges of his simar and jutted out his jaw. Mr. Cabal, we have crossed a sea to find this man. If you had any caveats with this plan, the time to say so has long since passed. We are committed, sir. We are committed. Are we? Are we indeed? Cabal could feel an old and pleasant feeling stirring in his breast. He had shown great patience with these fools to date. He had not failed them or abandoned them. Neither had he murdered even a single one of them. Yet for all these kindnesses he had received no thanks, only whining, and now undiluted stupidity. The delightful sensation he could feel was his temper slipping the leash. Your argument is as specious as it is fallacious. I do not give a damn that we have crossed a sea to be here. By your logic, if one was to circumnavigate the globe before being given the option of jumping off a cliff or not jumping off a cliff, you would fling yourself off immediately because, oh my goodness, you've gone all that way, and it would be a shame not to do something memorably stupid at the end. Not memorable to you, of course. You'd be dead. But everyone for miles around will always remember the day the idiot from afar threw himself to his death because, well, it would have been a shame not to. Mr. Cabal, Shadrach was scandalized. Bosie, meanwhile, had become very wide-eyed and was muttering, Gentlemen, gentlemen, under his breath, while Cord and the sergeant were smiling. Shadrach was appalled that Cabal, a hireling for heaven's sake, should be so... The impertinence, sir! Are you going to challenge me to a duel, Shadrach? Cabal drew back the edge of his jacket to show the hilt of his rapier. I very much hope you are. Cord stirred himself enough to step between them. That's enough, gentlemen. I think Mr. Cabal is simply giving vent to some inner issues. Cabal's face tightened. I am angry, Herr Cord, he said in a severely calm tone, not flatulent. Cord ignored him. But he makes a valid point. Rational caution, eh? Remember that? These ruins out by the lake are not safe. Not even close to safe. I think we must still go there, pace, Herr Cabal. But we must take every precaution and learn all that we may. For example, Sergeant, you said that Womps only attacked you on the way out. Was that because darkness had fallen? The sergeant nodded. Like I said, they don't have eyes. They don't see like we do. They can see in the dark, and they know we can't. And I can't say if they hate the light, but I'm sure they love the dark. There, then. Cord held his hands wide in a supplicatory gesture. We have the beginnings of a plan. Nobody has to go jumping off any cliffs. He considered momentarily asking Shadrach and Cabal to shake hands and make nice, but one look at their faces, Cabal's particularly, dissuaded him immediately. Cabal released the edge of his jacket to cover his sword's hilt once more, and as it was apparent that this, a tacit agreement not to run Shadrach through right this minute, was the closest he would be offering in any way of an olive branch, it was duly accepted by all present, again, tacitly. So, he said, his narrowed eyes never leaving Shadrach, of what does the rest of this plan consist? As it transpired, it was not nearly so much a plan as a list of things to be careful about. They would be careful about the Womps. They would be careful to get in and out during daylight. They would be careful never to split the party. Swiftblood. They would be careful not to tickle any dragons, antagonize ogres, irritate any trolls. They would also, and this was Cabal's contribution to the plan, be careful to let somebody else go first. Sergeant Hulk was apparently used to the role of professional Judas Goat and was easily able to lay hands upon a likely trio of bully boys to traipse into danger in return for a decent reward. Shadrach was irked that he had to use more of his gold than he felt comfortable about to exchange what had first been envisaged as a relaxing stroll into a scenic set of ivy-entwined ruins to seek out the counsel of a wise old man, and had now taken the character of an armed assault upon a hellmouth. Certainly the logistics of the matter had stretched out over 3 interminable days while equipment and mounts were secured. That the mounts were zebras did nobody's humor much good. They look ridiculous, said Cabal on the morning the expedition left Baharna from the lava gate in the eastern wall. He was standing by his zebra, looking at it at least as caustically as it was looking at him. The irony that he himself was dressed entirely in black and white passed him by. His self-awareness not being of a high enough pitch to detect this resonance, the zebra, on the other hand, felt a nebulous sense of indignation that it would be ridden by another zebra, albeit an odd bipedal one, which was not much of a mane. This indignation would have manifested as kicking and biting among the zebra's earthly brethren, but the zebras of the dreamlands are a breed apart, intellectual and dignified by their own lights, so it communicated its disdain with a basilisk stare accompanied by a monstrous and lengthy micturation during which it did not even blink. Hulk's 3 hand-picked men, Cabal had watched him pick them out of the gutter outside an alehouse, and Hulk had definitely used his hand to do it, were looking more presentable now than they'd had a chance to sober up, and were wearing a uniform of sorts. Hulk had found a reliable manufacturer of good cuirassier armor and bought 4 suits in a striking shade of crimson. Cord, who had gone along on the shopping expedition, had bought himself one in grim sable, set with acid black studs. He developed an inordinate attachment to it, and wore it with great frequency, even while they were within the safety of the city. "I'm just wearing it in," he would say, but no one believed him. For his part, Cabal purchased a leather strap that he used to make a baldric for his Gladstone, allowing him to carry it slung across his body, and so leaving his hands free. And so, On the morning of the fourth day, the expedition embarked upon its journey to the ruins by the Lake of Yath, where Hulk, with one of the mercenaries riding in the vanguard, and the other two in the rear guard, and the four explorers in file in the middle, Cord to the front. Oriab Island was no small rock in the sea, and they knew it would take 4 or 5 days to reach the lake, even assuming easygoing and no unwelcome adventures en route. For his part, Cabal bore it all with the same grim detachment that he had brought to the ocean journey. He was intrigued by so much in this world that he had little time for the small talk of the others. He was interested in the way that distant places were not merely distorted by the haze of the air, but, to his eye, seemed actually unfinished. There was nothing he could definitely give a name to, but there was a distinct sense that details clustered on these far vistas as they were approached, like coral accruing around a simple rock. He was surprised to find Bosey, of all people, thinking along the same lines. "Well, they are the dreamlands, I suppose," said Bosey, swaying gently from side to side in time with the zebra's gait. "And what we can't see close to has no need of. I have no idea what to call it. The stuff of dreams until it's right there in front of you." "I'm not sure that is how it works," said Cabal. He did not need to refer to his notes. He had reread them so many times by now that they were thoroughly ingrained in his always rapacious memory. "We are not dreaming the dreamlands. Others dreamed them before us. And the superimposition of their dreams has given it permanency. One may dream of the dreamlands, but the dreamlands are not a dream." "Yes," Bosey conceded. "Yes, that is very true. We, for example, are awake." "We hope," thought Cabal, giving inner voice to the most recurrent of his concerns. "Well, whatever the metaphysics of it," said Bosey, rising in his stirrups to look ahead, "it is beautiful here. Great men must have dreamed some very wonderful dreams to have wrought such a world." "Perhaps," said Cabal, for this had raised another concern. A suspicion verging on a certainty that the majority of the creation here was not of human origin. He had not spoken again of what happened in the dark wood, but it rarely left him. Nothing else of the same sort had happened since the dislocation in time and space, and the destruction of the spider-ant baby things, and the others seemed to have forgotten about it. Cabal had not. Any more than a man kneeling in prayer would forget if the clouds parted, God Almighty poked his head out and demanded, "Yes, what is it?" He had gained the attention of a god, and could not be sure that he had lost it, or would ever lose it. On a purely pragmatic level, if he had not called for the intervention of Nyarlathotep, they would doubtless all have died in the wood. He still wondered, however, if being prey to the spider-ant baby things was potentially preferable to whatever the infamously capricious god might visit upon him in return for the favor. The small column rode on and on and on. One of Hulk's men turned out once to have been a restaurateur who, while under the influence of an experimental mixture of spices, had been murdered by a jealous sous chef. The spices had included some unusual powders from the Orient, and as a result the restaurateur was sitting up blinking in the enchanted wood while, back in the waking world, the dirty deed was done. Divorced from his body and therefore a now permanent immigrant to the dreamlands, he had briefly considered setting up a restaurant in Loneth before realizing that all he had ever really wanted to do in life was strap on a sword and do some serious swashbuckling. The swashbuckling had quickly deteriorated into roister-doistering and thence to lying in gutters outside alehouses. Cirrhosis of the liver being unknown in the dreamlands, this was a career path he had heartily enjoyed, right up to the moment when he had run out of money and had had to go back to full-time swashbuckling until he had made enough to be drunk again. This was all of very little interest to those around him, except for the detail about restaurants, because he was a very decent chef, As a result, the evening meals were of surprising complexity, sensually challenging, and the uncontested highlight of every day. His piece de resistance was "The thing I shot with my crossbow of in," which was universally praised on the second evening. On the third evening, just as it was growing too dark to travel further, they crested a hill and saw glittering beneath the light of the dreamland's large and disquieting moon the Lake of Yath stretching out before them, perhaps 4 miles away, visible as a hulking mass of shattered rooftops and fallen columns showing pale like bones in a giant's graveyard, stood the unnamed city of legend and dread. Certainly, Sergeant Hoke regarded it with a stony-faced stoicism, but his gaze moved constantly, looking for the shadows of 9-legged things scuttling about the archways and byways. "We should go back half a league," he said finally. "We don't want them knowing we're here. Getting most of this hill between us and them should hide us from them until dawn." Nobody argued. Even Cabal forewent the opportunity to make a snide comment about Hulk's bravery because, having seen what the slightest wound from a womp could do, he knew that almost any precaution could be regarded as reasonable. So they turned their zebras and cantered back down the hillside to make camp near a stream, their fire masked from the hilltop by a copse of trees. They ate quietly that night, and the guard rota was arranged more carefully than previously. When morning came, none were dead or alive and mortally deceased or alive and rotting, so they regarded their precautions as effective. They rose, performed their morning rituals, ate, organized their equipment with great thoroughness, and then struck camp. Foreboding hung upon them like a cloud as they rode back up the hill and down the far side. Cabal had gone to great pains to discover anything that could be discovered about the mysterious, nameless, ruined city while the expedition was being prepared in Baharna, and had raided every library and archive he could find, including several things that were not open to the public. The collected intelligence thus uncovered agreed on 3 main points. 1. The city was in ruins. 2. The city's name was unknown. 3. The city was a tad mysterious. As far as could be ascertained, the city had once been a great conurbation, renowned far and wide for the strength of its commerce, the creativity of its artists, the skill of its artisans, and the depths of its depravities. In its hubris, however, its collective wisdom had been insufficient to stop it angering something or somebody. Probably a god. Probably Nyarlathotep. Cabal had paused when he saw this, closed his eyes for a long moment, breathed heavily, then returned to his reading. The somebody or something had sent a monster, or, if it really had been Nyarlathotep, assumed the form of one of his larger and more antagonistic avatars. Beneath a red and gibbous moon, doom had crawled from the lake and crept through the city, entering every home and every hostel, every bed and every cradle. By dawn, the city was dead and empty, with not a person or animal left in the place. A merchant caravan that had left the day before and had returned after a night of vile portents was the first to discover the horror. It was not the first time such a fate had befallen a city in the Dreamlands. Cabal noted that the tale was very similar to the infamous fate of Sarnath, but this event seemed to predate even that. The lesson seemed to be twofold. Do not anger the gods, but if you must, at least make sure your city isn't next to a lake, as that's just asking for trouble. The lake looked, if anything, more forbidding than it had the previous evening. The sun was barely above the horizon, so was too low to cast its light directly upon the waves that jagged across the surface to lap at the banks. It left the waters themselves dark and unknowable, doing little for the approaching men's mood. The Lake of Yath was huge, only the distant hills and mountains giving any indication that it was not a sea, and its depths could only be guessed at. The hermit moved here only about 3 years ago, said Cord, repeating a briefing he had already given before they had left Baharna, and again the previous night as they ate. He is believed to reside in a temple on a hilltop in the most regal canton. Presumably some aspect of the temple, its construction, or perhaps its significance, keeps creatures like the Womps at bay. That would be useful to discover straight away, as it would give us a secure camp overnight. Failing that, we must be out and clear of the city by dusk. He looked at Hulk, the image of exposed ribs covered only with scarred pink skin, evidently large in his mind. That is imperative for all our sakes. The city walls were still standing in long stretches, but breaches were common and large. They found a tumbled gatehouse with the remains of a tariff-taker's house outside and hitched their zebra's reins to a dead tamarind tree that grew by the ruin. Then, heavy with misgivings, they picked their way over the rubble and entered the nameless city. Cabal had wandered around a few ruined villages and towns in his time, but this was the first city he had entered that still looked anything like a city. Nature reclaims quickly, especially when there is sufficient water to support significant plant growth. Oriab was a temperate island with no shortage of fresh water, yet the city seemed in remarkably good condition. Scrubby grass grew in patches by the roadsides. Ivy tangled the statues. Bushes grew at cornices, and some buildings even had trees thrusting up through shattered walls. But it all seemed very mannered and controlled to Cabal's eye, as if it were the work of an artist portraying an abandoned city rather than the natural actions of time. Sergeant, Cabal addressed Hulk. He spoke quietly. The city pressed tightly upon the nerves, and there was a sense that speaking loudly, or even normally, might somehow awaken the place. How long ago was this city abandoned? Hulk did not answer for a moment as he adjusted the buckler strapped to his left forearm. Centuries ago, Master Cabal, perhaps millennia. He drew his sword. His men already had theirs in hand and scanned the rooftops for movement. Impossible, Cabal said. He turned to Shadrach, Bosey, and Cord. This place would be a forest in less than 200 years. On Earth, Cabal, said Cord. Yes, admitted Cabal. This was the place that... The way this place failed to behave scientifically never ceased to irritate him. On Earth... The city clustered up the hillside above the lake. On their approach, they had seen the remains of the docks and the simple housing that huddled near them. It seemed likely that the most regal canton, in Shadrach's phrase, could be at the top of the hill. In this area, they therefore headed towards as quickly as they dared. They discovered a great city square and followed a broad road that led straight up the hill from there. Hulk made a point of keeping the party in the middle of the road. If there had been any risk of coming under arrow or coral fire, he would have used cover, but as the primary concern was Womps, some dead ground between them and any potential ambush places could give them vital seconds. At least they had light. There was barely a cloud in the sky, and the sun made the pale volcanic stone of the buildings gleam. They had been on the road for only a minute or two when Cabal saw the skull. He signaled the sergeant to form a perimeter while he examined it. It's a city of the dead, muttered Cord. A skull is hardly a surprise. You forget the story, Herr Cord, said Cabal, not paying him much attention as he crouched by the skull and examined it cautiously. Whatever happened to the citizens of this place, ultimately, the point is that they all vanished from the city beforehand. Besides, this skull is evidently not human. He pushed it over with the tip of a stick and examined the jaw. It is similar to a bat skull, but obviously much larger. The orbits are atrophied. The creature had no eyes. A womp! Gasped Bosey. Well, of course it's a womp. Why do you think I'm not touching it directly? What intrigues me is how it died. The skull is broken. It's how they breed, said Hulk. They can burst out of the skull of anything that's dead in an abandoned place like this. If the skull's big enough to house a new womp, and a human skull works fine, they just grow in there and smash their way out when they're ripe. They can grow in adult womp skulls, too. They're not fussy. They lay eggs in skulls? I'm confused, said Shadrach. How exactly do they reproduce? They don't, said Cabal. Spontaneous generation. It doesn't happen on Earth. As has been made apparent to me on many occasions so far, this is not Earth. An abandoned place of foul repute and a large corpse. That's all you need for a womp infestation. However, he tapped the broken side of the skull with a stick. The skull has not been burst from the inside. It has been smashed from the outside. Nor is the damage directly over the brain pan. The fact that there is no skeleton or bones around is also significant. This womp was killed with great violence, and the skull damaged in such a way as to prevent a new womp forming in it. He straightened up and looked around, throwing the potentially contaminated stick into an overgrown garden as he did so. We must consider the possibility that womps are not the main threat here. There may be something or some things here that efficiently hunt womps and that are, in all likelihood, not going to want to be our friends. 300 yards further up the hill, they found a more complete skeleton, albeit one that somebody had played She Loves Me Not with. Cabal stood by one of the skeletonized legs while the others located others around the roadsides. None was closer than 3 yards to its nearest neighbor. These limbs were torn off and thrown away when they still had flesh upon them, said Cabal. See, the bones lie close to one another as they did in life. He walked over to the torso and skull in the middle of the avenue. The skull had been crushed in the same way as the previous example. This creature was torn limb from limb while it was alive. So we conclude that whatever killed it was very powerful physically and entirely undaunted by the diseases womps carry. He looked up the hill and then back in the direction they had come. Interesting. Interesting, said Bosie. Mr. Cabal, I must admit that I have been in a state of trepidation verging on fear ever since the matter of these womp creatures was first raised. Now you tell us that this city contains something that preys upon them, that preys on monsters, and you characterize it as interesting? You seem pale, Herr Bose. Something you ate, perhaps. There was nothing wrong with that Hassenpfeffer, said their resident cook from his position on the perimeter. Hassenpfeffer, said Cabal. I'm very familiar with that dish, but it's a rabbit stew, and I haven't seen any rabbits, just those furred creatures that look like wingless turkey. Oh, he considered for a moment. They were delicious. He turned his attention back to Bosie. My apologies. I interrupted your panicking. I am not panicking, shouted Bosie. Somewhere off to the east there was the sound of a collapsing masonry. No rubble's fallen since we arrived, said Holt tersely. The stuff must fall over occasionally, said Shadrach, the paragon of reason. It is a ruined city, after all. It may be a coincidence that it happened at the same moment Herr Bosie gave away our position, said Cabal, picking up his bag and starting to walk up the hill at a quick pace. But it may not be. It would be nothing more than a practical application of the rational caution that you were so quick to espouse if we were to start running. Now, he did so, the mercenaries, professionally attuned to danger as they were, joining him in a dog trot. Messrs. Shadrach and Bosie looked at one another in astonishment before looking to Cord, only to find him already well up the road, running also. Then more rubble fell to the east, but now it was closer. Shadrach and Bosie decided that keeping their dignity came a poor second to keeping their limbs attached to their torsos, and set off after the others as quickly as their robes would allow. The change from a stealthy progress through the totterdown city into a headlong charge did not reduce the tension that ran through them in the slightest. Headlong charges do not offer many opportunities to look back, and on the snatched glances they did take, they saw nothing but the empty houses and tenements, eyeless yet noble in their slow death. Of the womps they saw no living examples, but every alleyway and courtyard seemed to contain their skeletons, all torn, all smashed. The expedition saw them, and their sense of growing threat intensified with every snapped bone. There were no longer any unexplained sounds to haunt them, or, at least, none that could be heard over the sound of 8 men running, but this did not settle their nerves. If there is one thing more disquieting than an unexplained sound, it is a silence after an unexplained sound. Around them, the city became steadily grander and more impressive as they passed fallen gateways that marked off the different areas. Each gate had been more massively built and heavily ornamented than the one before, as they progressed from being simply markers to show where the scum lived, to actually restricting access to keep the scum out. Cabal ran by a basalt basilisk lying on its side at the end of a line of rubble where a gatepost had fallen, the basilisk's beak open in challenge, but gagged with a growth of dandelions. On its head was a diadem of gold. One of the mercenaries paused by it and made to lever it off with the tip of his sword. But Hulk swore sharply at him, and the man ran onwards with only one regretful backward glance. They arrived at the corner of a plaza, close to the top of the hill, and as they turned it, the ones at the front came to an abrupt halt, the others piling into them with cries of mixed anger and dismay. The greatest temple of the most regal canton, wasn't it, Shadrach? Said Cabal. Does this qualify? The great cathedrals of Europe are massive affairs, and would frequently have been larger, yet but for the soil beneath their foundations being unable to bear their prodigious weight. Aachen, Paris, York, all have mighty houses of worship that are known throughout the world. Yet, if the Kaiserdom of Aachen, the Cathedral of St. Peter in York, and Notre Dame in Paris were placed side by side, there would still have been room for a horse track and a shopping precinct within the temple to an unknown god before them. That's, started Cord, but words failed him. Cyclopean? Suggested Shadrach, who read a lot. The temple was a vast circular building as far as could be made out, with a large flight of steps as wide as a football field is long, heading up to a colonnaded terrace upon whose rear wall was the temple's main entrance, massive twin doors of wood and brass. The colossal edifice was topped with a shallow dome that glowed with the reflected light of the dreamland sun upon copper that had never and would never suffer the touch of verdigris. Behind them, some 500 or 600 yards away, and perhaps 100 yards from the road, whose head they had reached, stood a thin, delicate tower that must once have been the domain of an ancient sorcerer or mystic. It rose above its neighbors, unbowed and unmarked by the passage of the ages, a fine stalk broadening to a complex series of petal-like walls in different stones, a great stone flower topped by a peacock palace. Sergeant Hulk was covering their backs, so he was the only one facing in the right direction to see it, when the tower abruptly lurched bodily to one side, stood as if in injured dignity for a long second, then fell headlong and out of sight behind the closer buildings. A second later, a muffled whomp reached them. "What was that?" squeaked Bosie. Cabal watched a plume of brick dust blossom out into the wide avenue behind them. "Good news, Herr Bosie. It definitely wasn't womps." Without another word, they ran across the plaza for the temple, passing womp bones all around. Good guess. We'll get to it. And that was the end of chapter 7. Good guess, though, but not correct. And it is not womps. Womps. Yeah, you'll figure it out. Hey, good to see you. Glad you're here. Are there new people in here? Do they have any idea what's going on? If you have no idea what's going on, I'm very sorry. I saw all caps and I didn't read it, but I figured Jen was doing some bullshit because that was the only thing I saw in all caps was Jen's name. Jen, not during the live. You remember the last time? Granted, that was my fault that I sang a song about Eldritch Horrors. Yes, I did. Did it work out very well in my favor? No, it did not. Wait until after the live. Curse them in your own home. I don't condone that. We're going to run into internet problems again. You're not doing anything, I promise. Your promises account for very little. No. Seriously, Jen, your own home after the live, please. Not here. Not this. Oh. Someone's gonna out you guys. Sure. Okay. Definitely believe you. How are you going to follow that up with I didn't do anything and then reiterate the... Never mind. Yeah. What? No, who would do that? Totally not me. You all are going to get this live taken down with your blasphemy. Look at you. How are y'all feeling? How are y'all liking it? What do you think? What are your theories? Tell me the things. We haven't even gotten to the cats yet. I'm feeling hurt and offended. Thanks for asking. Good to know. Good to know. Giant mimic. Good theory. Good theory. Nah. It's, I don't want to spoil it, but I have a feeling you guys are going to be really upset. Just gotta put it in the redacted. Yes, give me your plan for cats. You're just happy to be here again? Me too. Me too, actually. Rose, you're actually not far off, but you're not right. That's all I'm saying. Step 1, get a cat. I like that that's the plan. But remember, we're talking about Dreamland's cats. We're not talking about Earth cats. So think of what every superstition, every assumption about cats through the collective consciousness of humans through the centuries. And what do you think the Dreamland's cats are going to be? Yeah, you can't contribute if you already know. You can't contribute if you already know. Yeah. Yeah. Dreamland's cats. Not regular cats. Dreamland's cats. We'll get to it. Tea galaxies. You know. You know, T. Should be fun. It's one of my favorite parts in the book. Bad luck gods made of liquid. Honestly, not far off. Very close, actually. I want a Dreamland cat, Toshi. I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if that's such a great idea. I don't know if you can keep them as pets, if that makes sense. We just replace them with dolphins. Dreamland's dolphins, though, would be... Because think of the collective assumption of dolphins. They would actually be what everyone wanted dolphins to be. Because dolphins are actually assholes. And I will not back down on this. Actual dolphins are shitbags. I will die on this hill. Dolphins will grape you. Dolphins will grape anything. Dolphins are mean. Dolphins are vicious. Dolphins attack every other living sea creature. They are the frat boys of the sea. And I am not swerving on this. I'm not, no one can convince me otherwise. But dream dolphins, they would be cute and adorable. You could ride them. They would be so nice. Man, you think the Dreamlands has dolphins? They have to, right? They have to. They just cute little dolphins, totally chilling with the Leviathan. Ride Sky Dolphin. Pink Lisa Frank dolphins. Yeah, they're all probably in all kinds of colors too, because everybody has assumptions about like cute dolphins. So if we're dreaming dolphins, it'd be like the dolphins and like Robot Unicorn Attack in the background, just like they're real cute and like in various technicolors. That would be pretty chill. You're gonna get me to 5K likes. What are you doing? How are you doing that? Sky dolphins. Sky dolphins were real. We would all be lit all the time. Y'all are extra today. I'm digging it. On the live? Aw. Thank you for the likes. Just today? You're just more extra today. Like there's just some extra, it's extra spicy today. I don't know, maybe it's because we missed last week. Oh damn, did we? I can't see my stats right here. Oh yeah, I can. They're real small. Oh man, we did. Thank you guys. I keep missing you guys in VC. I go to find you all in VC and y'all are never there when I'm in there because I'm late as fuck, boy. I'm up way too late. So it'll be like 4 a.m. and I'm like, no one's in here. Why is no one ever in here? And I'm like, it's 4 a.m. Why do you think people are going to be in VC at 4 a.m? I'm not going to at you guys and wake you guys up. I'm not going to do that. No, I just silently poke my head in the door and do a quick assessment. And then if no one's in there, I leave. That's how I do. Damn, we hit 6. We hit 6. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just assume so because it's very early or very late, depending on how you look at it. But one of the two. I'm not gonna just at you and tell you to do stuff. I'm not gonna do that. No, oh God, we are at 7. What are you guys doing? Are you just marathoning the like button? Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. I miss this. I'm so glad I'm here this week. Kind of taking a rest and trying to chug as much liquid because there's a big ghoul speech in this next chapter. And well, don't chill if your thumbs hurt. Don't do it till your thumbs hurt. Damn, you guys are really doing it. Yeah. What is happening? Yeah, I'm not gonna summon people. I'm not gonna use my power for that. I'm not just gonna tell people to get in VC whenever I want to chill. I have nothing useful to say most of the time. I just like to feel like I'm a part of a conversation that does not require me to actively contribute. That's why I listen to podcasts all the time. 9K. Jesus. Jeez, guys. Jeez. Guys. I don't know what the marathon liking thing is that's going on right now or how it started, but thank you. If you're tired, you can stop. This is just for the homies. We're just reading a book. You don't have to keep doing that. Crimson. I said if y'all are tired, you can stop. You don't gotta keep going, man. Oof. I don't know what the record-setting likes meter is going on right now, or why. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go big or go home. No, Dad, quit encouraging this. Seriously, if y'all get tired, you can stop. You don't have to keep doing that. I appreciate it. It's not necessary. There's a dog going AWOL outside. Fuck. My neighbor's dog is going off right now. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Ooh. I got my cat here. This is Bartholomew. No, I don't hear sirens. Just my neighbor's dog going absolutely crazy for some reason. Okay, he stopped. Long cat. This is Long Boy Jenkins. He's huge. This is Bartholomew. This is a gift from Lady Eva. He chills in here all the time. He joins me for every book club. Sometimes he's off screen, but... Jesus, guys. Why? Why are we marathon liking? I don't understand how this started. I just am wondering if I missed something or what's going on. I thank you. Thank you. If your thumbs are tired, you can all stop. You don't have to keep going if you're tired. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. No, you don't have to do all that. Gives confetti. I'm now too amused. Oh, God. Guys, who wants to read chapter 8? Dang, you guys really went like super chaotic this time. Don't know what's going on. Are we ready for chapter 8? Gotta get my ghoul face on. There's gonna be a lot of guttural throat clearing in this chapter. I'm just gonna warn you all now. If you don't like guttural throat clearing, this is your warning to leave. It's because we missed you. Aw, I missed you guys. Chapter 8. All right, solid. We are ready to go. If you need to use the bathroom, get another drink, get another pet, get another blanket. This is the warning. No takers. We all set to go. We're all good to go. Everybody got the necessities. 17K. Go get your smoothie real quick. We'll wait. We're waiting on Dendris. They have to go get their smoothie really quick. We all gotta make sure that we're all good to go. Either we go as one or we don't go at all. Go get your drinks. Everybody go get it. I'll wait. I'll be back. All right, sweet. We'll wait. We're gonna chill here. 22. No. Look, we can stop at any time if you all get tired. You don't have to push that many buttons. I appreciate you. I missed you guys a lot. I was really upset I had to miss last week. And it's great to be back and see you guys. And I'm hoping I can get back in cosplay and make a whole scene out of it next time. But you guys don't have to push that hard. Jesus. Why? Oof. Y'all are nuts. You're boosting my stats too much. TikTok is gonna think something's wrong. Like, that I'm doing something else in here. I'm not. I'm reading a book. I swear. We only said some mild inflammatory and blasphemous things. Don't get us taken down. They're gonna get suspicious. I'm not this popular. We just don't normally talk about it. Jeez. Jeez, y'all are extra. It's like a benchmark. Blood loss is back. Dendris, are you back? Did you get your smoothie? We're waiting on Dendris. Once Dendris is back, we're going to start. Yeah, sweet. We're all here. We're all ready. We all got our smoothies. And we all got our drinks. All right. Let's rock and roll. Chapter 8. In which Cabal has a surprisingly civilized chat with a monster. The great size of the temple on the hill confused the eye as they closed on it. They had preconceptions as to the limits of heavy stone construction, and therefore the greatest size the temple could realistically be. The Dreamlands, however, was always pleased to squash the preconceptions of the waking world, blithely ignoring building restrictions, health and safety considerations, and, most rudely, physics. The overall effect was to reproduce one of the most common and least enjoyable of dream experiences, running very hard, yet barely seeming to get anywhere. The square before the temple simply could not have been that huge. The temple could not have been so vast. Yet the square was, and the temple was, and the flagstones beneath their feet seemed never to end as they ran, and they ran, and they ran. And then, as is also the way of dreams, they were suddenly there, so abruptly that there was not even a sense of having covered the last 100 yards. They ran up the steps, all 99, Cabal counted, and arrived in front of the gate entrance into the building. "Oh, for crying out loud!" gasped Cord as he tried to recover his breath. "Have you ever seen such enormous doors?" Behind him, Shadrach and then Bosey staggeringly reached the top of the steps and promptly fell down, wheezing pathetically. "Yes," said Cabal, as indeed he had. "But they had the decency to have a porter's door set into them. How was anyone supposed to open these things for worship? Did they have mammoths for ushers?" He turned and looked out across the square, which typically now didn't seem anywhere near as enormous. The glare from the morning sun on the pale stone made his eyes water, and he instinctively felt for his glasses in his jacket pocket. As he did so, something twisted uncomfortably in his mind, something like déjà vu, except instead of having the sense that he had done all this before, he had an unaccountable sense that he had never, not even once in all the time that they had been in the dreamlands, checked his pockets for their contents. It didn't make sense, and almost immediately small fragments of memory, like ants, clustered around, and he thought, perhaps, that he had after all. Yet the scent of an unreliable recollection, a false memory, hung around it, and it was with considerable effort that he pulled himself back to the present. He found he had his blue glass spectacles out, and was staring at them as if he had just noticed that he had 8 fingers on that hand. How many fingers did that hand have? 8? No, 5. That was right. 5. 5 phalanges, 4 fingers and an opposable thumb. That was what he had. He counted twice, to be sure. Shadrach had managed to regain his feet by leaning on one of the massive columns that supported the portico over the temple gates. He was looking at Cabal oddly. "Mr. Cabal? Mr. Cabal, are you well, sir?" Cabal put on the glasses quickly, but his hand shook as he did so. "I am perfectly well, Mr. Shadrach," he said, taking care that there was no tremor in his voice. "Simply exhausted after the run. I'm sure you can sympathize with that." Without waiting for a reply, he turned his attention to the square. It was empty of all but wamp bones and scrub grass, forcing its way between the slabs. Of their pursuer, if there was a pursuer, there was no sign. "It isn't showing his face, assuming it has a face, yet," he said to Cord. Cord ignored him. He and the mercenaries were at the crack between the great wooden doors, trying to get enough purchase to open them. Normally, Cabal would have been happy to watch them scrabble away for a good long while, but as his own survival was also at stake, he decided he should make a few constructive comments. "Don't be such verdammt fools," he snapped. They turned to him with differing degrees of curiosity and resentment. "If this is the correct tempo, and I hope for all our sakes that it is, then a lone hermit lives here. I hardly think he manhandles those doors open and shut every time he wishes to dash out for some milk. There must be some other way in. I had hoped it would be at the top of the stairs by the main gates, and that we could not see it as we approached because of the curvature of the frontage or the occlusion of the colonnades. A forlorn hope, it appears. The fact remains that a frontal assault on these doors is doomed to failure, and that time may be limited before whatever destroys the wamps locates and does the same to us." "The man's right," said Hoke, brushing grime off his hands. "We would need a platoon of ropes stapled to the door edge to stand any chance of getting this thing open. If there's another way in, we have to find it. And soon." Without waiting for orders from either Moneyman Shadrach or Captain Cord, he turned to his men. "Right, you two go around Widdershins and take Master's bows, and Shadrach with you. The rest of us will go the other way. If anybody finds a door, send a runner immediately to tell the other party. Understood? Then jump to it." Going down 99 steep stone steps in a hurry was less tiring than going up 99 steep stone steps in a hurry, but comfortably made up for it in terms of perceived danger. Handrails and other such nods to safety had apparently been regarded as somehow heretical, and it was better that some of the faithful should finish as broken lumps of flesh at the bottom with bones sticking out at odd angles than there be any backsliding into being blasphemously careful. After the first few steps taken at a rapid pace, it became obvious that stopping was no longer an option, so all 8 men found themselves having to apply their full concentration to a descent that was quickly developing an aspect of headlong. All it took was for one little mincing step inadvertently to be a long, manly one, and the owner of the recalcitrant leg would shortly find himself at 6s and 7s, and possibly 8s and 9s, depending on how many sharp-edged corners he encountered on the way down. They reached the square at a gallop, the more adventurous jumping the last few steps, the less adventurous losing any remaining dignity, as they had to keep running while bending their legs to absorb the downward momentum, overall giving the effect of a drunken uncle at a party doing the hilarious going down to the cellar visual gag and doing it badly. They split off into the teams Hulk had suggested and began their circumnavigations of the great round bulk of the temple. "You realize that we shall be traveling far faster than the other party, Sergeant?" said Cord. "Shadrach and Bosie are exhausted. They'll have to keep stopping." "He knows," interrupted Cabal. "That's exactly why he did it. If he'd split Shadrach and Bosie between parties, both would be impeded. This way, at least one is making decent time." They were indeed making decent time. Cabal had realized some time ago that much in the Dreamlands depended on one's state of mind. If one expected to be exhausted, one would likely be so that much sooner than somebody with more faith in their own endurance. Similar aspects were equally affected by expectation and, it seemed, aesthetics. Cabal and the Fear Institute expedition had been in the Dreamlands weeks already, yet none of them had had any need to change their clothes. Well, there was Cord and his studded black leather, but that had been by choice, not necessity. If their situation changed to one in which the popular imagination decreed bad smells, if they were taken as galley slaves, for example, then bad smells there would be. But for the doughty adventurers, there would be nothing more than the smell of fresh sweat and, when their need arose, blood. Such was Cabal's observation, his conviction, and his expectation. All of them now and then looked back at the top of the avenue by which they had reached the square. Cabal found himself half expecting the appearance of some monster rendered in painted latex upon a wire armature lent to life by stop-frame animation and scale by back projection, like a film he had seen when he was young and had time for such nonsense. The harsh light and hard shadows gave the whole vista an artificial air that chimed with the thought, and Cabal made a conscious effort to suppress it. This world seemed to take far too much notice of one's inner musings, or daydreaming, he reminded himself, which seemed to explain a great deal. As they continued to dog-trot clockwise, the top of the avenue slowly became hidden from view, and not one of them was sure that they preferred it that way. When they finally found an entrance, it was not quite of the nature they had been expecting. Something discreet and bijou, like a castle's postern gate, perhaps, or a theater's stage door, by which, in days of yore, theological groupies might have clustered in the hope of glimpsing some superstar preacher. Instead, they discovered a great yawning cavern of destruction, a ragged hole in the temple's rear wall sufficient to provide disabled access for a wheelchair-bound diplodocus. Blocks of stone, Brobdingnagian in scale, lay tumbled about like a child's toys amid drifts of rubble. The 4 men had slowed to a walking pace when the first pieces of debris had become visible, and now were all but walking on tiptoe. There was no chance that this was a natural collapse. On top, the hole remained firm, and the blocks had not simply fallen, but had been thrown some distance. Cabal moved up first to peer cautiously around the edge of the breach. Sorry. My throat's starting to hurt. That's what I didn't want to happen. Hold on. Gotta coat my throat. Stuff tastes gross. It's so nasty. Ooh. Alright. Try this again. Cabal moved up first to peer cautiously around the edge of the breach. Beyond, he could see a trail of demolished internal walls going deep into the building, until all was lost in gloom. "It got in," said Cord, defeated heavy in his voice. "It got in and killed him. The whole journey out here has been pointless." "Not necessarily," Cabal admonished him. "Observe, the rubble from the walls. Right from the inside to out. This damage was not caused by something monstrous going in. It was caused by something monstrous coming out." Well, Cord thought for a moment. Mightn't whatever did this have gained entrance elsewhere and just created destruction on the way out? For all we know, Shadrach's party are standing by an equally massive hole, but one in which much of the debris lies inside the line of the wall. "I don't think so," said Cabal impatiently. "Look, men, if there is another breach, would we not be able to see light somewhere within?" Cord opened his mouth, failed to think of anything more intelligent to refute this argument than an arch, but in his case, unsupported. "Not necessarily," and therefore shut his mouth without saying anything at all. "There is, of course, a chance that this mysterious colossus has returned here and is lurking deep inside, presumably with one hand over its mouth to stifle its giggles as it waits for us to stroll in and consequently suffer blunt trauma and detach limbs." The others looked at him uncertainly. Cabal shrugged. "But it's unlikely. Well, this represents an entrance, I suppose. Sergeant Hulk, we should alert the other group to our discovery." Apparently, Hulk was still having trouble getting past the image of a snickering colossus waiting to do him harm. Oh, yes, at once, Master Cabal." He turned to the other mercenary and sent him off to continue clockwise around the building at a run until he met the rest coming the other way. He was to make a mental note of any other entrances he passed en route, but the important thing was to reunite everyone as quickly as possible. With a hasty salute, the soldier ran off, his hand on his sword hilt to keep his sword angled up and away from his heels as he went. "Right," said Cord. "Very well. Good plan, Sergeant." He plainly felt keenly the way he was not being consulted, but was endeavoring not to show it. "When the others get here, we shall decide how to proceed." "Yes, you do that." There was a faint hollow quality to Cabal's voice that made Cord turn and then gasp audibly, for Cabal was already climbed over the sill formed by the shattered stone and was advancing into the temple. "I shall just have a little wander around while you wait." "But," Cord realized he'd shouted and lowered his tone to sotto voce. "But, Cabal, what if the thing really is still in there?" Cabal had just vanished behind the first broken internal wall, but leaned out and put his finger to his lips. "Hush, Herr Cord," he said. "I need to be able to hear a snickering giant if I am to survive this." With which he vanished into the shadowed interior, leaving only a faint tang of sarcasm upon the air. Once he was out of sight and longed for and glorious by himself, Cabal's artfully angled flippancy fell away to be replaced by a cool wariness, honed by 100 unauthorized sorties into other people's laboratories, other people's libraries, and other people's graves. He could see that the damage caused by the mysterious Goliath was in no way wanton. It had simply decided that it wished to leave, and had its own reasons for not going by the main door, It was very hard to believe that a creature capable of such destruction would have any problems with the great gates, and had made a dash for the outside, swatting away several hundred tons worth of pesky intervening walls in the process. Cabal could not know why the gates hadn't appealed to it, but he was inclined to think that it was simply because it had not understood the concept of doors. He was also inclined to think, and here he was sorry that he did not know, that since it had been so very keen to leave the confines of the great temple, then it would not be in any great hurry to return. This was supposition, however, and supposition could often cause one to die at an inconvenient time, and with one's work left unfinished. Therefore, he backed it with a general portion of caution. He paid little attention to the chambers he climbed through, beyond checking for possible threats. He found none. The light was becoming dim as he clambered through ruined offices, storerooms, subsidiary chapels, and libraries, all raised in the honor of a god who seemed to care little enough now, perhaps even the god who had visited the city's doom upon it. Gods had so much power here, and so little wisdom. Like a child with a howitzer, they rained death on those who displeased them, and as for those who did please them, the gods did nothing. It was a poor sort of deal, to be left alone in return for tribute, a bullying sort of worship, but one common in the dreamlands, and implied often enough on earth. He was just negotiating a route through some sort of chapel of rest, which must have been used on an industrial scale in its heyday, judging by the number of empty funeral biers, when they met with mishap. He stood upon a tumbled pew, and its end seesawed down alarmingly, too far down. The floor was broken deeply through, not just the somber black tiling, but into the very fabric of the Romanesque cement that lay beneath. The floor beneath the pew tipped steeply, pivoted on a structural beam beneath, and Cabal, unable to keep his feet, fell heavily and slid into the dark depths. Without his weight upon it, the floor swung back to equilibrium. Of the gap in the floor where Cabal had vanished, there was no sign but a crack. It was not the first time Johannes Cabal had been dumped into darkness, and the experience had lost its dubious allure on his very first outing. He was thus already in a vile mood as he crumpled onto an unseen floor, his right knee driving up hard enough on impact to strike him in the face and to draw blood from his canine where his canine ripped his inner lip. He spat out blood, saliva, and invective as he sought to reorient himself in this new and troublesome environment. First, he took in what he could through his available senses. Wherever he was, the floor was even and worked, so at least he hadn't fallen into a cave system or a cavity formed by natural subsidence. This was good. There must therefore be a way out. He could taste dust that had been thrown up by his undignified entrance, and from his extensive experience of long-abandoned places, he could tell that it was largely inorganic in nature, indicating that at least he was unlikely to be sharing the space with anything else at that exact moment, a small comfort. The air was cool and musty, and even after standing, he could wave his hand over his head without touching the ceiling, which accorded with his second and a half it had taken him to reach the floor. The light in the room from which he had fallen had been attenuated at best, and none of it could make it past the obliquely spalled crack. He listened for a full 2 minutes before sharply stamping and listening for the echoes. They confirmed what he had gathered in the moment of poor light as he fell, that he was in a room with hard walls, more likely stone than brick, and that it was no more than 40 feet across in any dimension. Now, it was time to cast a little light on his situation. He had two options: to use a match from the silver matchbox in his pocket, a technological innovation that the Dreamlands were apparently prepared to countenance, or to try out a device he had spotted in an artificer's shop in Baharna while trying to explain the concepts of percussion caps, powder corning, and the special joy of putting a lead ball into any person who presents a nuisance. The device consisted of a beautifully filigreed brass cylinder topped with a sphere of solid glass. Into the space beneath the sphere one placed a small capsule in which there was a beetle of a particular species, kept alive but sluggish through the agency of a small quantity of drugged food. The beetles were the Dreamland's equivalent of glowworms or fireflies, but Unlike their mundane cousins, they did not generate their light as it was required through a chemical reaction, but rather stored sunlight during their pupal stage and released it at will through adulthood. Cabal had, at this stage of the artificer's explanation, pointed out several scientific implausibilities in this explanation, stated his distinct lack of faith in the artificer's truthfulness, and offered to nail the artificer's fingers to the counter in full knowledge of the detrimental effect this would have on the artificial's subsequent livelihood. At this point, the artificer decided that this would be an ideal point to offer a small lagniappe of sorts in return for a goodwill, future business, and not having his fingers nailed to the counter. Cabal had studied the device only briefly at the time, and had not loaded one of the capsules into the cylinder beforehand. Now he sat cross-legged and in total darkness, carefully unscrewing the glass from the end of the cylinder. Once it was off, he dropped it into his right pocket for easy recovery later, and opened the parchment tube containing 4 capsules of fine wound wire. The parchment bent in his hand, and he was rewarded with the sound of the 4 capsules falling to the floor and rolling off in all directions. He bit back another testy comment and started patting the floor around him carefully with his open palm in an attempt to find one. "Try by the tip of your left shoe," said a voice in the dark. It said in ghoulish. Cabal started, his head up, his ears keening. "Who are you?" he meeped slowly. "Oh, do not attempt my language," said the voice. "Your accent is terrible. Speak in German, or English, or Latin, or whatever tongue you prefer, without that awful parody of pharyngeal stop. I will understand you perfectly, and not be offended by your butchery of my elegant and poetic tongue." "Ghoul speech sounds like somebody vomited up halibut heads in syrup," said Cabal, stung by the attack on his pronunciation. He had worked hard on that pharyngeal stop. As he spoke, he reached out cautiously with his hand and discovered that, indeed, there was one of the lost capsules by the tip of his left shoe. "For somebody whose native language is German, you should be very careful about casting aspersions on the artistry of any other tongue." "It is the language of Goethe," said Cabal, dropping his capsule into the open end of the cylinder. He recovered the glass sphere from his pocket and began screwing it home. "An accident of birth, not an informed choice. Forgive me if I am underwhelmed." There was a pause, then the voice said, "You are forgetting that it's left-hand thread. You will never put the thing together like that." Cabal had indeed forgotten that it was a left-hand thread, such had been his concentration on the voice and wherever it was coming from. "You don't mind me using this, then?" he said as he finally finished screwing the sphere back in place. "Not at all. I know you cannot enjoy being in the dark, unable to see me, when my eyes can see you so very easily. Go ahead, Johannes. Cast a little light on proceedings." "As you wish," said Cabal, and gave the lower end of the cylinder a vicious twist. Inside, a piston drove upwards, crushing the tiny cage and its soporific occupant. As the beetle was smashed flat and partially sieved through the mesh of the capsule, captured sunlight was released, refracted through the glass ball, and emitted all around in a yellow glow with an unhealthy green tinge. Cabal held the cold torch aloft and took stock of his surroundings. The room was perhaps 40 feet along its long axis and 30 feet broad, built from rough brick. Around the walls were marble slabs, and Cabal realized that the room had once served as a mortuary for those of insufficient standing to take a place in the chapels above. At one end of the room there was a ramp broad enough for a coffin to be borne along, upon the shoulders of bearers. By the ramp on either side were deep alcoves at waist height, and in one of these sat a ghoul. Cabal risked a glance over his shoulder and saw that the brickwork had been broken through in the far corner. Beyond it, doubtless, lay a ghoul warren. Something caught his eye, and he walked over slowly to the pile of bricks as the ghoul watched him with mild interest. Unlike house bricks in the waking world, they were square prisms, so had no specific upper or lower sides. "Some of these bricks have mortar on 4 sides," said Cabal. "They've been reused." "Why is that? Why has this wall been broken down once, rebuilt less expertly by the look of the mortar, and then been broken down again? By you, I would guess."
"Well, let's see,"
said the ghoul. It unwound its long, betalioned fingers and began counting off points as if it were a professor in a lecture theater.
"First, this room used to have food in it."
"You mean corpses?"
"Of course I mean corpses. I'm a ghoul. What did you think I meant? Sausage rolls and fairy cakes? Yes, human corpses. Not only delicious, but good for you too. You should try one sometime."
Cabal watched the ghoul with carefully concealed worry. Ghouls were not necessarily ruthless killers all the time, just most of it. They were strong, resilient, and unpleasantly flexible, armed with vicious teeth in their canine jaws and sharp claws upon their powerful fingers. Once they had been human, though, and vestiges of that humanity still showed in many of them. Most had been nothing more than vile cannibals in life, and joined the tomb legions of the ghouls as their appetites overwhelmed their physiologies, altering them in these loathsome ways. They were beasts long before they ever became ghouls, and their chaotic, insane minds had long since fragmented completely. Others, however, had come to this transfiguration voluntarily, via decadence and intellectual preference, and held on to much more of their previous life. He had never heard of a ghoul being quite so jocular before, though.
"They don't taste like chicken," mused the ghoul. "I don't know why people think that. They should try some before spouting such rubbish. Much more like pork."
The ghoul sighed.
"But I digress. I was explaining the state of that wall. First, this room had food, corpses, if you prefer, in it. So we broke open the wall, took a few bodies, and replaced the bricks after we went.
And nobody noticed.
Administration is poor in the Dreamlands," said the ghoul. "They come down here, think, wasn't there a body on that slab? They think perhaps they imagined it and wander off to write a haiku. We got away with it for years, sneaking in and out as necessary."
"Hold hard," said Cabal. "This city has not been populated in millennia. How could you have been here when it was occupied?"
"That. 2 reasons. Ghouls are effectively immortal, barring accidents and foul play. That is, being a ghoul invites accidents and foul play. It all evens out. Second, the ghoul warrens, the great underworld beyond that wall, obey the confines neither of time nor space. I can enter here and exit in Massachusetts 60 years ago, or on the moon 60 years hence. Time and place mean a lot less to me than they do to you."
Cabal was silent for a long moment. "You can travel through time." His tone was distracted, thoughtful. The ghoul chuckled, an unpleasant sound. "Ha!
Then one day, all the bodies went. Living ones above, and dead ones down here. All gone. The city was abandoned. No, that's not a good word. Abandoned to make it sound like they had a choice. Depopulated. That's better. Like deforested. Chopped down when they stood and taken away. Much better. That has a sense of it. Then we knew they would come. The many-legged ones with the bat faces and no eyes, full of fever and corruption. And people think we're disgusting.
The ghoul laughed once, a bark.
Ha! Then the big thing came and killed the many-legs. Crack! 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 Off come their legs. Then crunch! Crush the skulls, so no new little baby many legs pop out of the brains. Have to admire the big thing. Thorough, methodical. Never stopped until the many legs of the many legs were dangling from gutters, thrown over rooftops, and anywhere at all, except on the bodies of the many legs. Every skull. Crunch. Good job, big thing. Of course,
it added, rubbing its chin in a very human gesture.
If we go up top, it will pull off our legs and crunch our skulls too. So we do not go up there. That hole was blocked when the many legs came. Unblocked when the many legs died. Now we peek out. Careful, crafty. But the big thing is never about. Haven't seen it.
It giggled as if in a private joke.
Ha! Only hearsay.
What is this big thing of yours? Asked Cabal. He had never had such a lengthy conversation with a ghoul before. Normally they consisted of little more than, "Get back into your holes, you damned cannibals, before I shoot you," and rarely developed into a discourse.
Not of mine, said the ghoul. Not of mine, oh no. Of somebody's, but not mine. They've gone away now, but the big thing will be here forever. Oh,
it added conversationally,
it will kill all of you. Pull off your legs and break your skulls. We'll probably pull off your arms too. A limb's a limb to the big thing.
We got it easily enough, said Cabal, not sounding quite as confident as he would have preferred.
It didn't know you were here. It was bored, lying down in Artisan Square, eating weeds. Very bored. Then you made lots of noise, and it came looking for you.
We did not make a lot of noise, snapped Cabal. Then he thought of Bosey's indignant squeal. Well, not very much.
Made enough. The big thing has little ears, but they are very keen.
Cabal frowned suspiciously. I thought you said you'd never seen it.
Oh, I haven't.
The ghoul smiled innocently, which went about as well as could have expected.
Not in person.
Why are you telling me all this? Why are you talking to me at all? You could have killed me in the dark. What do you want? The ghoul's smile vanished in unexpected ways, as if its face was made of melting wax. When it spoke, the light, bantering tone was gone.
I want you to succeed, Johannes Cabal. It is your destiny. If you fail, more than your puerile fear institute will be disappointed.
I don't believe in destiny, said Cabal. We make our own futures.
So we do. But I have seen your future, Johannes Cabal. And if you do not find the phobic animus, you will lose more than your life or your soul.
Cabal's eyebrows raised. I'm not sure I have anything more to lose than those.
Oh yes, you do. Believe me, necromancer, you do.
The ghoul paused and looked up at the ceiling as if listening. When it looked back at Cabal, it said,
Your colleagues, I am sure you don't think of them as friends, are above us now. The two parties are together, and they have entered the temple. They are following your tracks through the dust. Soon they will find the disturbance at the place where you fell through into this room, and they will attempt to rescue you.
Attempt, said Cabal slowly.
Attempt,
confirmed the ghoul.
Because you will already have freed yourself.
It nodded up the short ramp that ran beside it.
The door is not locked. I know you would not wish to be indebted to them for rescuing you.
I'm their guide, said Cabal. They would be lost without me. Don't delude yourself into thinking that they would rescue me out of any finer feelings.
Guide!
The ghoul laughed again, a sound like a choking dog.
Ha! Ha! You think they could not hire 100 reliable men who know these lands better than you, Johannes Cabal? Your usefulness ran out the day you got them to Lanith.
It is not so, said Cabal, although he was racking his brains for a good reason why it was not so, and having little luck in the process. The ghoul leaped from its resting place and bounded past him on all fours in a long, fluid lope, like a great whippet with rubber bones. It reached the hole in the brickwork and vanished through it in a blink. A moment later, it leaned its head and shoulders back out and leered at Cabal.
Johannes Cabal, just remember him in your greatest extreme in the next few hours. Remember him.
Remember who? Said Cabal, raising his light sphere high.
Remember Captain Lockery,
said the ghoul, and vanished back into the shadowed breach. That's the end of chapter 8. So, not like a total cliffhanger, but a little bit of one. I promise I'm not abandoning you. Abandoning you next week. Oh, thank you for the roses. Oh my god, there's a lot of roses. Start of chapter 9 is page 165. My body temperature dropped while I was doing that voice. I don't know what happened. Freezing now for no good reason. I have a sweater. Oh, what's the book called? Oh my gosh, are you new here? Oh no. I bet you all were so confused. The book is called Johannes Cabal and the Fear Institute. It's part of a series we're reading. This is book number 3 of a 5-part series. Book number 1 is Johannes Cabal the Necromancer. Book 2 is Johannes Cabal the Detective. And we are on book 3, just stopping after chapter 8 of Johannes Cabal and the Fear Institute. It's about a necromancer that does a load of shit to get his soul back and to try to find a way to reanimate a person in their perfect living embodiment with their soul intact. The first one, he makes a deal with Satan and sells his soul for the tenets of necromancy, and then figures out that he does need his soul for the experiments to work. So he strikes a deal with Satan that he runs a carnival for a year and has to get 100 souls to replace his. The second one is sort of like a murder mystery. He's trying to steal a book from a library in a foreign country. It goes terribly wrong, and there's murder and mystery aboard an aeroship called the Princess Hortense. And this is book 3, Johannes Cabal and the Fear Institute, where he and a gang of gentlemen from an institute, the Fear Institute, enlist his services into a foray into a place called the Dreamlands, which is the collective consciousness of millennia of humans dreamers. And they are going to find the physical embodiment of fear so they can destroy it. At least that's their intent. Cabal is just on reconnaissance. But on the journey, he finds a mysterious ghoul and some people he used to know who tells him it's his destiny to reach the phobic animus, and now he doesn't know what to think. And that's where we're at right now. And that's what you missed on Glee. And if you're just joining us, I have a YouTube where books 1 and 2 are up on it. I need to finish uploading content for book 3. I have so much content to catch up on. I have to put so much stuff on that YouTube. Anyway, there we go. So if you're a little bit confused, that is the synopsis. And we come here every Tuesday and read a book, a little bit more of the book. We read about 2 chapters a night. So what is happening? Oh, Sim for Dinks is here. Awesome. You're welcome. That's what you missed on Glee, and you can join us next time if you want to catch up. Me reading it is on YouTube. Quality is questionable. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having a fun time doing it, and we all show up here every Tuesday and read about 2 chapters if you want to join us next week. Yeah, a lot of people find my voice soothing. Not the ghoul voice, apparently. Probably not. That one's terrible. I like my ghoul voice, but I have a feeling it's going to grate on people before the end of this book. I did get Thai food with noti bean before getting up here. So, yeah, I ate, I drank, I had a bunch of water. I'm drinking my coffee right now because it's really good, and Lady Aoife got it for me. You like it? I'm so glad. I was like, somebody's going to get really annoyed at this ghoul voice before the end of this book. I like my ghoul voice. That's how I always hear it in my head. Kind of raspy, terrible. Sounds like they smoked like 2 packs of menthols before they started talking every time. It's just how I hear it. Man, it's good to be back. And I can't wait for next week. We're going to have a whole shit show. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun. I hope you guys like it. Sorry about me coughing in the middle of it. I thought I was going to make it. I was so close. Where'd that throat coat go? Oop. So, oh God. 48K. Guys, seriously, you don't have to do that. I appreciate it. I love you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you. I like doing voices while I'm reading. I always hear the voices in my head, so I do them as with a close approximation, or the closest approximation that I can and how I hear them in my head. So I hope that you are all enjoying that. That's also why I don't listen to a whole lot of audiobooks, because I have an idea of what their voices sound like, and then so many like people who like do a lot of audiobooks, their voice is like very kind of one-dimensional. I do have to now. Jeez. Oh my god, guys, you don't have to do that. Seriously, guys. I'll still do this even if you don't have to spam the like, man. Yeah, just to have so many I have so many ideas of how I remember when I first the first audiobook that I listened to was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and I was like, this is terrible. And I very quickly stopped, and people tell me they like it when I read because I do voices. So I just started doing them the way I heard them. And if somebody doesn't like it, you can get the fuck out. No. You can always leave. No one's holding you hostage. But if you do like it, stick around every Tuesday at 8 Central. You know the drill. Unless I cancel because I'm sick. In which case it will not happen, but that doesn't often happen, and a lot of the time I will power through it, if I know I can. It's still in your uniform, you're from your game at 7. Ooh, you can change. Yeah, you could go change, my guy. It's so good to be back. I can't wait till I can get back in cosplay. I've had so many complications with that lately, you have no idea. And I have so much content to shoot, and so much stuff to work on, and so much stuff I wanna change and work on and get through, and like haven't been able to do it, and it's been really bumming me out. And I've had a lot of personal issues crop up in my life recently, and it's always on my days off. In my car, and me getting sick, and among other things, it's just been like shit show after shit show, and I'm like, I didn't get tickets to the shit show. Why? It's just continued admission every single week. I didn't subscribe to this. So I'm trying my best. A whole live. You stuck it through the whole time, man. 50K. Oh God. Stop. Seriously. Okay. We got to 50K. We stopped. You can stop now. I don't know what the goal was, but I think we've reached it. You're good. You're good. No. Yeah. No. Stop. Yeah. We're good. We're good. We can stop there. We can stop at 50. Dude. God, Jesus. Well, it's good we set goals for ourselves and expectations. You know what? And the fact that you achieved them is a real commendation on your part. This was a communicative team effort, and go team. But seriously, stop. I was just happy to be back here. I didn't want you to go try and set a record like count. You don't have to. No, don't. The book club team. Yeah, stop it. If I see that like button go off one more time, you guys stop. Quit hitting it. I can see you guys. I can see you guys. I can see it happening. No, don't go for 100 next time. Don't quit that. Stop it. You can stop at any time. No. Yeah, see, stop. No, stop it. Stop hitting it. I will turn this car around. No. Yeah, I can see it doesn't show who it is specifically, but it shows the hearts when people are clicking them. So I still get it in the corner. I know you're hitting it and you can stop at any time. We're at 50.9. Our box didn't show. No. It'll probably show up tomorrow. It'll be fine. I'll open it next week. I'll wait until next week and I'll open it on the live. I'm not sure what's in there, but I'm really excited about it. But it's okay that it didn't get here today. You can't control the mail. And the mail is ass. We've covered this. The mail is ass. Mail is ass. So, don't worry about that. It was me. Jesus. Oh, man. I missed doing this. This was fun. I was so sick last week and I could not stop hacking on my lungs. Like, I was straight up, all of my airways were like so obstructed. I couldn't breathe out of my nose. And I was pretty much like, my throat was so like just, this is going to sound real gross, but just like phlegm in the back of my throat so bad that I couldn't blow my nose and was just vomiting up snot. That's how bad it was. And I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. But I can't breathe at all. Like, it was bad. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to make it through 2 chapters of this book. There's absolutely no way. And it would get better at times because I was pretty much swallowing this shit. This is a brand new bottle and I'm already like a good chunk of the way through it. It's about a third gone. And like it was to the point where I'm just living off cough drops and this shit. And I mean, this works decently well, but I was just so, my voice was so, I woke up one day last week and my voice was so deep because it was so bad that I sounded like corpse every time I talked. And it got to the point where I was talking with one of my friends and I was like, man, my throat hurts so bad. And it was so deep and they were like, yeah, it sounds so bad. It sounds like you could set a record-breaking album out. And I was like, stop. And they were like, do the thing. Do it. Choke me. Like, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And they were like, seriously? I was like, I'm not doing that. So you would have gotten complete corpse voice that whole day. And I was like, I can't go live like that. I'm going to hurt myself. Never. I'm going to live forever. No, I'm not. I'm going to die. I really hope I die, actually. Not right now, but like eventually. I was just thinking it'd be a good experience for me. Not like, that sounded way more suicidal than I meant it. What I mean is I'm just very curious, and for scientific inquiry, I would like to know what the experience is like. Nobody clip that. Nobody clip that. Cut that out. As if this isn't my live. Who else is going to cut it out but me? I just think it'd be a good experience, you know, like eventually. A universal experience that we're all tied by. And I admire that. My throat hurts. This stuff tastes gross. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to talk, but we're good. I made it through the 2 chapters, which is what I needed to do. Like I said, not as bad as last week. Not great, but still not as bad as last week. Jesus, stop it, guys. You can stop at any point. Sorry, I'm trying not to cough. I made it through the thing. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to talk on live, but I'm trying not to cough because I know that's very jarring for you to hear it through this mic. You'll stop when I end this live. It's what you'll do. Ah, shit. One sneaked out. Sorry. Ah. I haven't talked this much in a while, so I just spent like 2 hours talking, which is more than I usually do. I didn't mean to do that. Did I do that? I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I should probably stop hitting this vape, but I need nicotine. Because I'm addicted to nicotine. Bartholomew. Hug time. Everybody hug Bartholomew. Yeah, sorry. I'm kind of fading in and out. God damn it. Son of a bitch. Okay, I'm gonna maybe go because I'm fading fast. It's got worse, so I just started spraying my throat, and now I'm like, oof. Yeah, I should have made tea before the live, but I didn't. So I should probably make tea. Or maybe join you in the redacted. I doubt I'll talk very much, but I'll probably dip in there in a minute. But thank you for joining me on live. Good to be back. We'll be here next Tuesday, same time. Maybe not same place. We might be at Nodi's. But I think we're gonna do it. I should be good next week. I've gotten better, so this isn't nearly as bad as it was last week. But I made it through the chapter. I got it through. So, I'll see you all in the redacted, and I will see you all next week. Thank you guys. I missed you a lot, like actually. So this has been real cool. And I hope you all have a good night.